Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to my review for Star Ocean 5, Integrity and Faithlessness. That's a mouthful. As I was playing through the game on Twitch, I got a lot of questions such as, is this game as bad as the reviews say? And my TLDW review is no, it wasn't. It's an average RPG. Nothing standout, several flaws. Let's just go over the experience. First up, let's talk about Star Ocean 5's story, which kind of sets the precedent of why this was more of an average RPG. The game does its best to get you invested in the characters, their lives, their habits, and how they impact the world the game takes on. While the story delivered isn't necessarily a weak one, the developers tried to make most of the game as seamless as possible, basically allowing you to walk around in a cutscene with little to no transition, move the camera around, and even walk around and use emotes during important text. It's fun to mess around, but compared to the game's dedicated cutscenes, which are very infrequent for the first half of the game, it lacks impact. That being said, the story is there, and if you pay close attention, you can find ties to the other Star Ocean games littered about to give you an idea of why the events of this game are important. The planet you are on is also not huge, but you'll find yourself traveling throughout it and unlocking new paths fairly frequently. It's sometimes tiresome to tread across the same lands repeatedly, especially for the numerous amount of side quests the game has, but killing monsters along the way proves incredibly useful for a number of reasons. The length of the story itself was also called into question in most reviews. If you flat out ignore side quests, you should take no longer than really 15 to 20 hours to beat this game, on the shorter side for an RPG, especially compared to the previous Star Ocean games. I finished the story and I've taken out 1/3 of the game's recommended super bosses, and that took me about 50 hours, and that's without obtaining every battle trophy, unlocking every role, creating every item, synthesizing all the best stuff, and a bunch of other things. So I could definitely get a few more hours working my character up to level 255 to take on good old Six Wing. Those of you who have played the games before this know what I'm talking about. Speaking of that 50 hours, let's talk about the gameplay during that time. Star Ocean 5 utilizes what I like to call a short-long system and is an action RPG. Basically, you can set your character's attacks to change automatically based on distance. Additionally, each character has a basic attack, one that's a light attack, one that's a strong attack, and one that has the ability to guard. This acts as a rock, paper, scissors system, where light attacks cancel strong attacks break guards, and guards work against light attacks. Utilizing this system helps prevent attacks and generate reserve gauge for bonus EXP really fast, especially if you also get bonus full and SP, as well as executing very powerful special attacks. The problem is that it proves ineffective against later game bosses, pretty much making the strong attacks impossible to mitigate, outside of either outright avoiding the damage they deal or stunning the boss. You can assign up to 4 skills per character, one for light and strong attacks, and they do withhold the properties of it, meaning that light still breaks strong and strong still breaks guard, even with special attacks. And you also get one for both short and long range for each of those buttons, on top of those basic attacks we mentioned before. Casters do have quick buttons that work in a similar manner, but they are able to pull from any of their learned spells via the in-combat menu, giving them far more abilities to support the team. You're also able to assign roles to all of your party members, not necessarily saying you're a healer, you're a tank, but they're basically little effects that give you various buffs and can change the way that the AI of the currently uncontrolled allies change. Most roles are fairly basic, but some role combinations become completely broken later in the game, especially the dead man walking one. It can make any challenge you may have once had significantly easier when combined with other correct roles. Now, while this all sounds great for the combat and makes it sound like it has a decent amount of depth, the problem with the combat is that on the 2 base difficulties the game has, Earth, which is considered easy mode, and Galaxy, which is considered normal, it eventually turns into you picking your favorite or your strongest character and wailing on enemies with the same repeated attacks, regardless of role or that rock, paper, scissors system that we mentioned before. In all honesty, if you want a real challenge and you want to see the true nature of the game's gameplay where that rock, paper, scissors system matters a little bit more and you can't get away with spamming your skills as much, you really need to play on the 2 higher difficulties that you unlock after playing through Galaxy, Universe and Chaos. So, what I recommend, play through the game on Galaxy, ignore the side quests, just get through the game, and then play it for real on the Universe difficulty. If you want a super challenge, go for the Chaos difficulty. Though unless Dead Man Walking is removed in those difficulties, you'll probably end up defaulting to that eventually. Another system we haven't touched upon yet is item creation, synthesis, and augmentation, which resemble previous entries though with their own little changes here in Star Ocean 5. Item creation allows you to make basic items, synthesis allows you to make somewhat random items, I should say, and the strongest items, I should say, and augmentation allows you to imbue a number of effects or buffs onto the armor and weapons that you've crafted or bought from NPCs and whatnot. It's quite satisfying to utilize these three systems in conjunction to make your character as powerful as possible, especially once you get an idea of how to use the synthesis feature. It's not entirely random, it follows a pattern based on the materials you put in, so you can make some crazy awesome weapons and armor early on, especially if you pick up those trends. Or if you just read a guide and it'll tell you how to do all that really early on. As for the rest of the game, like I said earlier, it has its flaws. One of the biggest ones is definitely the out-of-combat camera, which juts up and down as you walk over terrain with bumps and hills. This can be a serious buzzkill, or it can make you nauseous if you're somebody who's easily, affected by those kind of things. I wasn't too bothered to it after playing Type 0 though, to be honest. The large amount of running in the game can also sometimes dredge on, unless you have a solid use for the items that you're picking up. Overall though, playing this game, I had a good time and would probably continue to have a good time working my way to the final super boss and as well as playing on the universe difficulty. If you have a completionist's itch, this is not a short game. You will still need to collect every battle trophy, you will still need to beat all the super bosses, you'll still need to beat the game on all the difficulties, and you'll just be here a really, really long time. I'd imagine you could get 100 plus hours out of the game if you are a super big completionist, especially going for that platinum trophy. But if you're looking for something like a super engrossing and lengthy RPG story, regardless of the difficulty you're playing on, you're going to be better suited to play the earlier Star Ocean titles. I had fun, and I'll base my score on the fact that I did have fun despite the game's flaws. I'll give you a 7.5 out of 10, that's a solid C in the American grading system, so I'll go with that one. Good effort on the game, but quite simply, it could have been better in a number of ways, and some of the flaws are just, they seem really simple and like they should have made it through in the first place. Not the most memorable RPG, but by no means as awful, I feel, as some of the websites are saying. That's my opinion on Star Ocean 5. Let me know what you thought about the game if I could stop stuttering over my words. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and if you're interested in seeing the entire playthrough, I uploaded part 1, I will be uploading part 2, and we'll see if there's a demand for the remainder of the playthrough to be uploaded, especially all the way up to 2-Wing, just because I doubt I'll have the time to play all the way up through 6-Wing. Without saying a name, I know you guys know who I'm talking about if you've played earlier Star Ocean games. Anyway, thank you for watching, I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.